I'll try to explain how Git works really simple. So this is a really simplified implementation of what you would see in Git branch. Basically, you can think of Git and you can think of a branch more specifically as a video game. So if you've played video games, you can have, these kinds of autosaves there. And these are things what's called a commit. So a branch is basically your whole game, and a commit is your autosave during that game. With the video games, we need to start somewhere, and the same thing with Git in our projects. So our very first commit or a save would probably be a project start. After that, in our hypothetical example, we could have a basic architecture laid out for our project. Then, for example, if we're developing a music player, we could have a music feature implemented. And then after that, a music feature bug fix. After that, we would probably have a release and then a chat feature implemented. The biggest benefit that Git gives us with commits and branches basically is just like in a video game, you can go back to a part, for example, that was easy. The same thing goes for Git commit messages. So, for example, let's imagine that we implemented a basic music feature, like a basic music player, and that music player is working fine, and we're all happy. But then we noticed that this music feature has some sort of a bug. And what we can do is that we can go back to the initial state of our music feature. Or, I mean, for example, we can go all the way back to this basic architecture being laid out, and we can see where we went wrong. Or, for example, we decided like we want to re-implement it in a different way. We don't want the music feature the way it is right now. We want something different. So we can go even all the way back here to this point. And this gives us the flexibility of going back, you could say, in time in our projects and not having to really work through our whole project and change everything. We can just basically go through these autosaves and work from there. So right now we're going to look at the second benefit of Git, and it's probably even bigger than being able to go back in time. And the second benefit is the ease of collaboration. And I'm going to show you this here right now. Basically, let's imagine that I'm not working on a project myself. I'm working with Stacy. And this is me right here. And Stacy is working as our lead developer. And Stacy has already laid out our basic architecture for the app, and she's working on the main branch. Nobody's ever working on the main branch, but that's not the point. Let's imagine she's working on the main branch, and this is her latest commit, the basic architecture. Basically, Stacy says to me, "Okay, Nick, I want you to implement a basic music player, but we can't work on the same branch or in the same code base, basically, because I'm also working on the chat feature right now. So we might actually mess up each other's code because I'm going to be working on the chat feature, you're going to be working on the music player feature, and we might touch each other's code base and make changes that would break our functionality. So what she recommends to do is she says, go ahead and branch off of the main branch, basically make another branch that's based on the main branch and name it feature music player. So what this branch has at this point, when I just made a copy of it basically, is I'm making this new branch at this point right here, and it has all the changes up until this point, up until this commit. So I would have in this branch already the basic architecture laid out by Stacy, but I wouldn't have yet the chat feature or whatever else. when I make this copy of a branch basically and make my own branch, I have the basic architecture laid out. And so I started writing my own code. I write the basic music player. And at this point, I decide that, okay, I'm finished with my music player. I'm happy with it. And I tell Stacy, okay, what do I do next? So she says, okay, let's imagine she's finished with her chat feature and she says, okay, you can go ahead and do your merge of your music player. And I say, okay, I do my merge. There's lots of strategies how to do that, but basically what this means is I'm going to take my change, the code that I've written, and I'm going to basically copy it over again to this main branch. At this point, the main branch right here would have both the chat feature and the music feature implemented. And it would actually look something like this. For someone who would look at the main branch after this merge, it would be very similar to this. So we would have our basic architecture laid out just as here. Then we would have these two commits that I've been working on over here. Then we would have the Stacy's chat feature, and then we would have our release. So basically, for someone just starting on the project, unless they take a deep look into it, for them it would look like everything was basically implemented synchronously. So basically, everything would already be here at this point, and nobody would even notice that different people have worked on these features. So this is pretty much it for the introduction to Git. As I mentioned, commits allow us to go back in time and work on certain features or mistakes that we have had in the past. And branches basically allow us to work in parallel with other developers. This is a very rough introduction to Git with the most fundamental features, you could say. But of course, Git has so much more to offer, and it's a very powerful tool that is worth checking out and learning more about. But I'm going to end on this. So thank you so much for listening.